All right. So here we will continue our discussion about the participants. In the previous session, we actually kind of discussed what the work party is. We saw how we can auto create one work party, basically, which is for which the data is available during the case creation. But that's not often the case. Sometimes you need to add the work party after certain step because that's when you get the data. So we talk about this example of our insurance. We are getting the customer data only after this application submission stuff, right? Until that, we do not have the customer data, right? So I cannot add it at the beginning, not at all. So I should be able to add the work participant later. Doesn't matter when you are adding it, maybe after this step, maybe after this stage, maybe wherever. You cannot add any participant if that is not defined as a participant role, basically. If that role is not defined here, you can never add a participant. Okay, so here I have defined customer, and customer is a person. Customer is a person. So I can add a customer here, right? I can definitely add a customer role participant. Let me show you how to do that. That is the first thing that we will learn in this session. Okay. So when you run the case during the apply phase, look at it. During the apply phase, you will either say new customer or old customer, whatever it is. That's when you will have the customer data. It's a little slow, but yes or no, whatever it is. Basically, let's say I'm saying new. Now, at this point of time, I know who the customer is. Before that, I didn't know, right? So after this step, only I can add the customer. But how do we add customer or any work party at the runtime? Okay. Is there any way to add work participant during the case processing? Yes. There is an out of the box activity called add work object party. See this one. This is the activity that we use to add participant from any step. You need to just call this activity. This activity, you need to supply the role for which you want to add. What is the class of that participant? Maybe work data party person, data party operator, whatever it is. You need to provide an um, you need to provide a data transform that will get the data of the party work party, and it should be written in the data party person operator, whatever class you're choosing. That's where the data transform should be. Is the party repeatable, true or false? Right, so this is one set of parameter. Or you can have a page created, and on the page you could have all the value automatically set and pass the page. We will not be using this option, and this is the output. Basically, it will show what happened. We will just use the first 5 options to create a participant. Okay, that's one thing. Now let's see. Let me open this flow. So this is where basically my flow action is executing. During the post processing of this flow action, am I calling any activity? I'm already calling an activity. By the way, I will have the customer data available with me. So either I call here in the post processing, but there will be one problem though. If it is a new customer, if it is a new customer, or if it is old customer, how are you going to get the customer data? You are storing the customer during the runtime. You are storing the customer ID at the work page. Rest of the data you are getting from the database. If it is a new customer, you are using a different database. If it is an old customer, you are using different database. So how will you know that this is the customer? Well, you can say that, okay, I will use the existing customer logic. I have the customer ID, I will get the data from the database and I will add that as an operator. But what happens if it is new? That logic will fail. So ideally, I should add a utility shape. And whether new or old, the data will be available after this step in the database, correct? Once the data is available in the database, then I will call my utility and I will fetch the data from the database to add it. And in this utility, you know that we can execute an activity. I will just execute this activity. This activity is going to add the customer role. So I will have to provide the role. Class is going to be data hyphen party hyphen person. Data model, I will create a new data model. Okay, so I will name it as new cust work party. Repeatable? No. This is a customer, not repeatable. I will have to create this data model, this data transform. That's it. So it will try to add customer based on the data supplied in the data transform. Submit it. Save it. So if it is a new customer, you would have already saved the data in the database. If it is an old customer, you will already have the data in the database, right? So you don't have to worry about. It's just that you need to create this data transform in this class. Add work party. Good. So let's create that data transform. That is the data transform which will get the customer data, and that data transform will be used by the activity, this activity that we are calling from this shape to add the work party. So let's create the DT data transform. Should be in the data hyphen party hyphen person. Okay. So this is the activity object. How data transform only, right? Sorry, during the creation, I think I choose something else. Person. Let me create it again. I think I missed something. Yeah, clipboard. Okay, data party person. Big clipboard. Right. Okay. So there are certain aspects that has to be initialized. Okay. So if you look at this, the work party that is added here, it needs to have name and all that. But this is on the UI. If you open the clipboard, under the PY work page, there will be a PY work party page. This is the this is where you can see. So role and all that will automatically be added. See, first name, full name, email one. These are the detail that you need to provide for the work party. Okay. And there is something called PY work party URI. This is also very important. These are the minimum things you need to supply. Okay. So let's add those things, okay, in the data transform. That's why we are writing the data transform. So we will set those values. We will do one thing. We will do update page primary, same page basically, with values from, see, we have the customer at the moment, we have the customer ID, right? So I need to get the data from the data class using the customer ID, and we should already have get customer record data page that we used earlier too. This accepts the, no, not this one. This accepts the CID. This one can be leveraged to get the data of the customer. Get the data of the customer based on the CID, and the CID is available on PY work page. The class of the PY work page is this one. Yeah, 1 second. Okay, so PY CID is available on PY work page dot CID. Okay, let's just execute this once. Just 001. Okay, so this is the data. So this will be available for us to map. Where is, yeah. Now we need to map PY work party URI. Work party URI. That's usually the primary key. So we will add the customer ID for that. Then you have PY first name. Then you have PY last name. Then you have PY full name. Then you have PY email. If you do not match email, then you cannot send correspondence. Okay. So let's see how the data is in the customer. So this is the email ID. Dot email ID. This is the first name. This is the last name. And this is the first name plus last name. Save it. Now this data page will get the data needed for the work party. Okay, so this is how it's working now. Let's have a look at this again from the beginning. So we have added basically add work party activity. Okay, this add work party activity is going to try to add a customer record of this class using this data model. That's all. Now this data model or this data party, sorry, data transform is actually getting all the details for us, right? And this is getting the details from the database based on the customer ID, and it is updating that. Let's create a case now and see if it is working fine. So runs plan. Plus 001. So this is the customer one's detail, Mahesh one from whatever it is. So as soon as I will submit this, the case will move. Look at this flow. Where is that flow? Let me open this again. Open process. Here it is. So case will move from this, it will go to search duplicate and all that until the end of this. It will be called at the end of the flow. Okay, so let's continue, submit it. But this is customer one, CID one. Okay, it's not added yet, it's still the owner one that was earlier. Let's submit it. Now it's added because now case has completed the first step, right? It is added. See, this user is added as a customer. If you click on that, you can find the detail. So this is the customer one. If you create the case for customer two, the customer two will be added that. Okay. This is a channel from where you can modify the work party or delete the work party from here too. Okay. Delete or modify the work parties which are submitted. So see, this is repeatable, so only you could have once, right? You cannot have more than one. So that's why when you have both selected, you do not get any other option. That's one concept. So this way you can add work party anywhere from anywhere in the case flow. And you know the concept of data transform. You just need to supply the data that you need to use as a work party. It can be user entered data from the screen. It can be data that can be fetched from the API call or whatever it is, right? You know that this is just you can get the data from anywhere. You just have to map it to the right properties and then call this activity to get that added. It's as simple as that. So this is the first thing. Second that I wanted to explain you guys is, okay, let's say that I just mark it voice over entry, this customer, and when you create a new case, sorry, my bad. One second, please. Oh, it reached to, this was customer two, okay, fine. Okay. So, oh, this is not resolved. We haven't set the right status for this one. Anyway, so let me refresh this again. Okay, just a minute. Okay. So this we basically just saw how we can add work party dynamically as and when we need with whatever data we need, right? But at the same time, if you try to just remember here we have defined two type of participant, right? Customer and owner. If you try to add something else, Pega will give you an error. See, customer and owner. So if I now try to add a different participant, let's say just any name, let's say cust only. Okay, this is not defined as a participant. When you try to add that, so there was a question, right? Do we need to define that on the case definition case participant first? Yes. If you try to add a role which is not defined in the PY case management default or basically cases participant tab on the setting, it will not be accepted. See, the role is not defined. You need to first define that role. So yes, that has to be defined. There's one more thing basically that I want to explain you guys. That this voiceover entry actually tries to add the customer at the beginning. Okay, but if you do not have a data transform to execute, it will consider it as done. So you need to add a data transform here if you want Pega to add that record. Remember, it's executed at the beginning, which means that the data transform that you are running must get the data, must set the party record at the beginning, be able to set that. But if that has a dependency on the data that will be available during the case processing, you should not do that in the voice or basically voice over entry. Okay, it should visual over entry. It should be only done after the data is available. So in that case, we should not do visible on entry. Okay, that's one thing. A required means that when you mark a participant as a required and you have the data transform, if that is not added in the system, Pega will throw you an error. I'm going to add the same new cust VP and with voice over entry. Let's see. When you try to create a case, what happens? Oh, it should actually give me an error. One second. Okay, so 1 minute. This one, new customer. I saw our entry, so it will not find the record at the beginning. Let me refresh this. Participant. So it will execute this. Why there is no error? Because it will not find CID, but that will eventually not give any error, right? It will just try to add the participant anyway without any data. So there will be no success at all. Good. But if I Have I updated this to customer? New customer ID. Okay. Well, I'll talk about basically required more. It seems to be a little bit busy at this point of time, but that's okay. We will come back to that later. All right. So we added basically a work participant dynamically, and we saw how we can add it, right? Based on whatever data we have. Now let's talk about the uses of the work party. Okay. When we can use it. You can use it for two purposes. One for the case assignment, and the second, I mean, the most commonly used, and the second is send communication. Okay, so let's say that after the approval or rejection that we are doing, maybe we want to send a communication to customer instead of just hard coding this application email address. I could now use participant and send the message to customer. Send the email to customer. No need to do a hard coded, right? Email ID. Similarly, maybe after the case creation, I want to assign the case again. Record is stale. Let's refresh it. Yeah, this is fine. Okay, save it. And you can add multiple participant, all participant or multiple as well. Okay. Now after the policy is set up, create case. Maybe I want to assign some step here, collect information, just nothing. Basically a demo step, and assign that to not current user, specific user, and based on the participant owner, just for the owner to have a look at that. Let's configure a view as well so that that alert goes off. Submitted. Save it. Okay. Now let's create a case. So you will see that it was hard coded email, right? Now it will go to the participant. Even the rejection should also be configured that way only. So participant customer. Okay. So whatever is the participant ID, email ID, that email ID will be used for sending the email. Let's see. So this is the customer two. That's who we are using, and I'm going to reject it. So an email will be sent. Your application has been rejected, and this has been sent to this user. Is this the current? It's just the, you can check that here as well. This is the customer. This is the email ID. See, Pega automatically uses the email ID py email one to send the email correspondence to the participant. Anyway, let me create one more just to show you assignment part as well. So I am the owner, right? I am added as an owner. So last step will also be assigned to me. Let me approve. Still in the review. See, it's still in the review. Let's do the approval. Still in the review. EM approval. See, demo step. Cancel it. So this demo step is assigned to me because I was the owner. It was assigned to owner. Okay, that's what we added, right? Demo step. This one. So that's where we leverage work party for the assignment and for the communication. That's how mostly we leverage them. And this is where we will conclude this session.